Call me successful.
So ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited to have a very special guest with me today. Angus Ferguson joins us today. Now, Angus was the former head of customer solutions at Domain. He's an industry advisor to Domain at the moment, and he's the founder of a company that we're going to discuss later on called Founded. So Angus, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Avi. I appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Very excited. We've been trying to make this happen for a while.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great chat. So tell me, I want to start with this because you're someone that everyone looks upon and goes to in the industry as someone we can get advice from as to where the industry is going, where PropTech is going. But how has that happened? Like, I want to get to the bottom of this, but where did it all start for you? Where did you say to yourself, I want to do real estate? How did that start?
Yeah, so like a lot of people in real estate, it's not as a traditional component to just step into it. I was playing soccer over in the US for a couple of years, realised I wasn't going to be good enough, moved back to Australia, got into real estate or fell into real estate in a cadetship actually down in Elwood in Victoria. And at that time, the guy I was working for had a very successful business previously, had about 50 offices across Victoria. He'd sold that and come back in under what was Pride Real Estate. And he bought that business 2 weeks after I'd started there at Central 21. And he sat me down and he's like, look, you're 20 years old. I don't believe in cadetships. I'll give you 3 months. If you don't get a listing, real estate's not for you. And I was like, okay, great. This is a baptism of fire to kick things off. Fortunately, I got a listing during that time. Fast forward 2 years later, he was like, hey, you're actually pretty good at this. Why don't I stake you and set you up in an office on your own in Paran? And so I was under Pride Real Estate Paran with another guy, and we had no idea what we were doing. At that time, we'd have the monthly meeting with the accountant, go through the P&L. We didn't even know what a P&L was. We didn't even know what EBITDA was. We didn't know whether we'd made money or lost money. But during that time, I got very curious about technology and about just questioning everything as to why we did it the way we did it. So during the course of that, I ran into a problem, which was on a Saturday at auctions. Traditionally, you would have to call 4 data houses after an auction: REA, Domain, Property Data, and CoreLogic. I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm calling 4 people, giving them the same information every single time, and it's just taking me so much longer than it needs to be. Why? So I started to call around and figured out that there was about 30 to 40 people sitting in each of these call centres. And what was happening is they're sitting there waiting for agents to call to get the auction result, the price and the disclosure. Why? Because one of the most valuable pieces of information in real estate is the price of what you've just sold a property for. Because it goes in content, it goes on realestate.com domain, it goes into the papers. It's a pretty important piece of content. So I was like, okay, there's a problem here that needs to be solved, not just for my business, but also for the industry. And so from there, I took the leap of faith with the co-founder at that time. And he met me at a cafe in Elwood, loved what we're doing. He's in technology. He's like, I'll quit my job tomorrow if you give me 50% of the business and let's just go for this. Sure enough, he called me the next day. He was out of the technology business he was in. He started coding and figuring out how to build that first version. And we built a business called Bid Tracker at the time down in Victoria. We ended up rebranding it to a business that was called Real Time Agent. And effectively what we went about doing is you would go to an auction, instead of scribing all the bids down on a piece of paper, we actually built technology to scribe it exactly the way you do it, but we would capture all that information and then send it to all the third parties from there. From there, what did we do is some of the real estate agencies are like, hey, you guys are pretty fun guys and you seem to know how to solve problems. What else can you do for me inside of my business? And so we went about the process of sitting down with them and going through every single piece of paper you had in your office. And we would just literally be like, hey, this property management lead form, who fills it out and where does it go to? Okay, cool, let's digitize that. And what we figured out was the 2 biggest catalysts inside of a workflow inside of a real estate agency is the moment that you list a property and the moment you sell it. So what we did is we digitized the authority component and then we digitized the contract to sale. And in that process, we ended up saving about 3 hours per transaction, which was a pretty cool thing to do and have an impact on the industry with.
Can I go back and ask you about Bid Tracker, because that seems to be the PropTech, the thinking that led you to where you are now. How easy was it to convince the agents to use it?
It's a funny thing now going back into startup land again. I'm facing the same problem, but with a little bit more confidence. But one of the examples I had was with a very good CEO who runs a fantastic business when I was trying to convince him that we need to move from paper to digital. And he picked up a contract, 150 pages. He's like, Gus, you don't understand. People trust and like to touch and feel the paper before they sign the contract. Had the same conversation with him a few weeks ago, and I was like, remember when you said that? Now RTA is doing 20% of all transactions in Australia are done digitally. COVID helped that and certainly accelerated the growth of that. But you have these moments where you're kind of used to how you do things, and I'm guilty of this as well inside of our business. You get used and comfortable to a way that you're doing a particular part of the process, whatever it might be, that you think is important to your business. But when you step back and actually have a bit more of a broader perspective on why are we doing it? Is there a better way to do it? That generally there will be if you've had it in place for a while.
It's sort of like one of the most romantic roles in real estate. It's the role of being a penciler. Like everyone used to enjoy it, right? So you just came and said, you don't need that person anymore. It's kind of like a digitized version of that now.
Yeah.
So one of the things we struggle with as principals and leaders is change management of agents and our staff. Like you've managed to convince people to move from penciling to bid tracking. And so that experience made the real-time agent experience a lot easier as well because of the learnings that you had from there.
Yeah, I think that one of our special sources was we were from the industry and we were the customer. So we understood who we were solving a problem for and what the impact was. A lot of the times, a lot of PropTech companies will get caught up on trying to sell you a feature instead of selling the outcome or the solution that it's going to provide for you and your business. So what we see and what I've seen at Domain, was fortunate enough to be in a role nationally and got to go across the whole country for many years, is that there's like 450 PropTech companies out there now. There is more PropTech than there is days in the year. So it's a pretty scary thing for a principal as a business owner. You're thinking, I'm getting calls every single day now with someone who's telling me that they're going to 10x my business. But actually, you've got to ask yourself the question, is it a product or is it a feature? If it's a feature, it's probably not something worthwhile putting in your business. You're actually probably worthwhile working with an existing provider to give them feedback on their product or business to implement that into their process as well.
So going back to real-time agent now, how you implemented it, what was the take-up like? And do you think you helped solve the problem? Or do you think it's a continuing thing you're trying to solve at the moment with real-time agent where it's gone to?
I think you would respect this just as well as me, Avi, is when you run a business, you generally do things the hard way the first time and you make a lot of mistakes and failures and you learn by doing. Well, that's me personally anyway. I've been fortunate to be mentored by people like John Fung and people who have got these amazing academic careers and gone to Stanford and stuff and learnt the case studies, so they've kind of learnt through others so they don't have to make the same mistakes. For us as a business, we would do everything ourselves. And what we would tend to think is, I do this better than anyone and I need to make sure I'm doing this part of the process because I need to make sure it's done the right way. What we found out is when you hire great people, you put in capabilities and give them systems, process and autonomy, they actually do a far better job than you will ever do. So where we got to is it took us about 4 years. We got to about 10% of all transactions going through the platform. And then Domain Group came knocking and said, we'd actually like to acquire your business. So they acquired the business back in 2019 for $24 million up front with the earn-out consideration for us to continue over the next few years as well. And it was a great learning. We'd got the business to 35 to 40 people. We were really good and really passionate about solving problems for customers and for the industry and having an impact on that component. What we didn't know how to do at the time is, how do you take a team from 35 people doing X amount of revenue to 100 people doing $300, $200 million worth of revenue? And that was the learning, and part of the reason why we also were acquired by Domain was there were some great people and still is inside of that business that we could learn from in order to help scale that business to the next iteration.
Can I go back to ask you about the growth of real-time agent? Because one of the things I admire about you is you just know everyone, right? It's not knowing everyone, as everyone respects you and you've got great relationships. How's that formed with real-time agent? Because you would have done a lot of work in terms of reaching out to principals and agents, trying to convince them to go on that product, on that journey.
Yeah.
Like, how's that relationships, or like what kind of relationships have you formed and how's that helped your career?
Thank you. That's a very nice thing to say. We did it purely by getting out there and pounding the pavement and meeting absolutely everyone. We would go to every conference. We would visit 500 real estate offices a year ourselves to just understand their business, build a relationship with them. you know, we're in a people business. You don't sell property. You're kind of selling to people often and helping them either downsize, upsize, and move to the next adventure within their life. And so we approach it the same way is, well, our customers firstly care about building rapport and building a relationship with people. Let's do the same thing. Before we actually get to talking about what product we're here to talk about, let's understand who they are. Let's understand why they're in business, and let's understand what problems or opportunities they're trying to solve for right now. And it's a lot of fun because every state has different legislation. Every state has different players with different dynamics that are going on. So it's always an evolving space with new entrants coming in that scale out their businesses pretty fast. And we really enjoy being a part of it.
Because my perception of when Domain bought you, it's not so much Domain just buying Real-Time Agent. I think they were more buying into you. From what I gathered, and that's great to think about it that way, isn't it?
Yeah. The part that they had, or Jason said, is a part of this acquisition is an acqui-hire, because no one, or there would be very few people that have been out in the industry and gone and met and understood so thoroughly every person's process within their business. What are their pain points? How do you solve for them? What are they looking at? What is the different technology out there? I would say we wasted, probably from a business perspective, a lot of time at meeting every PropTech company out there, but we were hungry to kind of learn everything and what everyone was doing, which gave me a really unique understanding. Transitioning into the Domain role, we got towards the end of the earnout, and Jason, who's the CEO, or previous CEO now, sat me down. He's like, hey, why don't you stay and I'll teach you how to run a much bigger business, a much larger organisation, and in return you be a bit of an annoying entrepreneur that's a bit different from a perspective of a usual corporate person with all the IP that you've got. And so that was a really good partnership. I continued to be annoying inside of the business, and John Fung mentored me around how do you build a team in a multi-level management structure, managing 100 people over 3 countries with oversight over a P&L of close to 300 million. When you're at $1 million in revenue, you want to make more money, make 5 more phone calls. When you're at 300 million, you do the same thing. It won't even register on the P&L. So you've got to learn different skill sets.
Different skill set. Well, one thing is that so one of the we're talking about all the PropTech companies calling principals leaders at the moment, and they all tell us what we need to do. Mm-hmm. But from your journey, it seems like you were more of someone who was on a bit of a listening tour than telling people what they need.
Yeah.
Do you think that something that we're going wrong with the industry at the moment is just people are just selling what they think the principals need, or the owners need, what the business owners need, as opposed to what you've sort of set out and done?
Yeah, I think I would say some of my strengths are I'm quite a patient person, but I also have pretty good self-awareness. I know what I'm not very good at, and I know what I'm good at. And so I knew that I didn't have the skills and capabilities to continue to scale the business at the rate it needed to grow from 40 people. I needed to sit and take a back seat and watch someone else do that for a while so that I could learn, okay, that's how you do it. That's how you go from 50 people to 100 people, but bring in the right management structure, bring in the right capability that sits around it. Real estate, and it's not particular to real estate, it's all business really, is everyone wants the quick fix that buys them 10x. The reality is it doesn't exist. You've got to get into business to be in business for a long time. If you're doing it for a 12-month period, you're probably going to fail. And so you've got to have the ability to sit and think about, I don't want to solve something just for this month. What is something I need to solve for the next 3, 12, 24 months that's going to have a material impact on where my aspirations and where I want to take this business. And so often we see real estate agencies that are like, just give me this and give me one little lead, and then go away, not thinking about how do we create a customer experience. It's a 1-star, 5-star, 10-star experience for our customers.
How hard was it for you to sell to Domain?
The process, they lied to us. They said it's very easy. It'll take a couple of weeks, which is, we always joke about it now, but it was a 6-month negotiation, like up till midnight, like negotiating through lawyers, through finance, through all the different divisions you had to do. We actually ran out of money from a business perspective where we were going to. So we had to ask Domain to borrow $500,000 to keep us going, to actually continue to negotiate against them as well, which they were fortunate. They said, yeah, keep going. We want you to continue to grow at the same rate you're growing. Don't slow down. We'll give it to you as a loan, and then if we don't get a deal, you'll need to repay us back. Yeah. But that was, a really good in good faith and a good testament to the confidence they had in doing the deal with us, but also in the business that we were trying to grow as well. The deal in terms of like letting go, I was fortunate. I had a pretty good management team that we were already starting to build around me inside of the real-time agent business and my business partner. And what I recognised is actually the people we employed, I thought I was doing a good job at particular parts of the process. Once I let go, I was like, oh my God, I was terrible at that. I should never have been touching that in the first place.
I think we're all the same in that regard, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to let go, and when you do, you're like, oh my God, someone else is doing it better.
Yeah.
So what does day one look like at Domain? So you've got all these goals with the real-time agent, and now you kind of aligned with your goals with Domain. You've got great mentorship there with Jason and John. What do you look to build now when you get there? Like,
one of the first things that we did was we fast-tracked the earn-out, and they had enough faith in us to say, actually, like to take over what was called Agent Solutions, which was like 100 people, P&L of 30, 40 million at the time. And so what I did is how I approached running a 30-person organisation, right, versus 100. I tried to do the same thing, which is I wanted to be in every meeting, I wanted to be absolutely everywhere, and I wanted to be a part of every single decision that was going on. And I got a couple of months in and I was like, oh my God, I'm so burnt out. What is wrong with me? What's going on here? And I quickly realised through getting a business coach that you can't be everywhere and be a part of every decision. You've got to learn to get the right people in the right seats, trust that they're going to do the right thing and that they'll raise a risk to you. And then through that, I learn a mantra through the business coach, which is I will only be wherever I can have an impact. If I can't have an impact in that meeting, I probably won't be there.
that's amazing.
With that came through, again, not through learning via a Stanford degree or whatever it might be. Wasn't fortunate enough to do that. Was learning through failure and being like, I'm so burnt out. I cannot continue to try and operate like this. I need to change something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, going back to what you said about not having a Stanford degree, I feel like your early career, and especially in football and sport, like that's the thing, that the competitive drive comes from there.
Yeah. I was always super competitive when I was younger. I learned to tone it down as I got a little bit older and learned to you just can't be competing in everything all the time as well. Yeah. But I was fortunate that like through competition, through drive and having a good work ethic, I wasn't particularly that good of a soccer player from a talent perspective, but what I was good at having a strong work ethic to get up every day and work at it, which allowed me to go to the US for a few years. And we worked, our coach at the time was an ex-Marine drill sergeant.
Yeah, wow.
So if we lost a game,
yeah,
we were up at 4 a.m. doing suicides until 6 a.m.
So can you explain to us what suicides are?
It's basically like running from one end of a basketball court to the other.
Right. Yep.
Until the coach blows the whistle, which sometimes would be like an hour and a half in before. Like some people would pass out during the session, but it was like a kind of, for me, it kind of got me ticking, and I was like, this is interesting and I want to continue to see if I can stay to his limits and push to the next limit that he's trying to get us to as well.
So I'm kind of digressing, but is this where all this ice baths and things come into your life? Because I hear about ice baths and all the stuff that you get up to.
No, that was from Frank Grief,
Right.
who's a real-based founder. Him and I bonded over ice baths. He was like, you have to get into this. It's a great way to start your day. I was very apprehensive at the beginning. But yeah, it's actually become a bit of a daily routine for me of starting with an ice bath, starting with a run. I think that for me, and you would be no different to this, I'm sure, that basically throughout the day you can lose control, problems arise, etc. So for me, morning routine is really important because it's the one part where I can spend time with family, do some exercise and kind of get myself ready for the day. And I've had that time before I go into sometimes a bit of chaos as well.
So speaking of chaos, right? So Domain's attracted a lot of attention in the media lately.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people are interested in the product, in the solutions that it has, in the company as a whole.
Yeah.
Without going into it, like when do you actually decide that I've had a great run here, I've had a great 4 to 5 years, I've achieved so much in here? Like, how do you come to a decision that, okay, now it's the time for me, everything's going well, now's the time for me for a new venture? Like, what got you to that moment?
There's a few things. I think timing and luck and kind of things fall into place where I met my co-founder, Joel Tomeno. I've known him for 20 years. We started to work on some stuff in the background and kind of start to kick around on some ideas.
So Joel was your co-founder
Of the new business, found it. And we were starting to play around with some really basic principles, which was, okay, why was RTA a successful business and what can we learn from it to do better the next time? We kind of boiled it down to three things. One, it's got to solve a real problem. For Real-Time Agent, that was paper to digital signing, efficiencies in workflow. Two, it has to be highly scalable. So for us, it can't be bricks and mortar. It can't be infrastructure. It's not the way we're wired. It's not what we're interested in. We want to do something and do it at scale, which RTA was. We got it to 20% of all transactions within about 7 to 8 years, about $400 billion worth of property going through it. And the third one was it has to have really strong unit economics. That one we didn't get right at RTA. It's really hard from a PropTech perspective to actually get to profitability. You need to get to serious scale, which is very, very expensive to do. Not many actually get there before you can turn a profit. And so we took those three basic principles and tried to apply it to the new business. And we started to get like, okay, I think we're on the right track here. The other thing that happened at the time is John Fung put me up for the Australian Financial Review Young Exec of the Year. I went through that process. It was like a day where they bring you in, they sit you down and you pretend to be the president of a vice president of an AI business doing 40 billion in revenue, losing X amount of billions a year. And during the course of the day, they actually bring in actors to pretend to be a disgruntled client, disgruntled employee and a few other things. And they're watching you, the consultants, as to how you're reacting, also what you're doing throughout the day, and how are you as a executive in the space across Australia. I was fortunate enough to be one of the 6 winners in that. I was like, okay, I think I might know how to be a good corporate citizen now. We've ticked that box, which was a really, really nice thing. And then things started to fall into play around what's going on in the market. For me, it was never going to be an easy time to leave Domain because there's some really great people there. But at the end of the day, I was like, if I get to my deathbed and I don't have a crack at it again, I think I'd be pretty disappointed in myself. And so we ventured out back into unemployment for the moment.
Sorry, I left out that from your bio, the AFR Young Exec of the Year, because that's meant a lot to you, and it's kind of propelled your career in a different way.
It has, yeah. It got a bit of recognition in terms of like, okay, the guy he can do startup, but a lot of people are like, can he actually be a good corporate citizen? And I think I was like, okay, I think I might know actually what to do here. This is good.
Yeah. So tell me more about Founded, because that's your next venture.
Yeah.
What does that look like at the moment, and where are you taking it, and what problem is it trying to solve in the marketplace or in this industry at a large scale?
Yeah, I think we're really excited about it. We're kind of in incubation at the moment and working through it. We'll launch later in a few months, but effectively coming back to the first principle of what I was talking about before, which is has to solve a real problem. And so for us, the problem is this, that 70% of people in this country who get a pre-approval actually never buy. Of the 30% that do, and you think about all that human capital wastage of, so I'm a consumer, I get a pre-approval, I then go to the pre-approval goes via the mortgage broker, there's a lot of liaising, there's a lot of paperwork that has to go back and forth. Only 30% of them actually go and transact, approximately. The second part is, of the 30%, only that takes them 7.5 months to actually buy.
Yeah, wow.
What's more interesting is ME Bank did a property literacy test with a bunch of people who got a home loan through them over the last 12 months. 60% of them failed a basic property literacy test. And it's really rudimentary stuff.
60% of the 7%?
60% of people who got a home loan through ME Bank. Yeah. They did a property literacy test, which was simple stuff. It was like, when you've bought in between now and settlement, what do you need to do? And it's things like, do people know they've got to get insurance? Not many people actually know that before they settle, they've got to have insurance. What are they doing before they actually put an offer in? Like very, very simple things that you and I know because we live and breathe it. Most consumers don't actually know. And then the last part is around the affordability crisis. And what we're seeing more and more in this country is the rise of the rent investor. So it's people who, they might live in inner metro, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, living in let's pick one in Sydney and say Bellevue Hill, and they love Bellevue Hill, but unless you've got $10 million, you're probably not buying there. So they're choosing to continue to rent there, and then they're investing into areas to hope for capital growth longer term, which is a good model. People are making a lot of money out of that, but it's a way to say, well, I really like my lifestyle, but I can't afford, so I'm just going to continue to rent. But what they're choosing to do is actually ride the property wave and how property prices go up, et cetera, every year in this country. And the last one is there's actually about 400 buyers agents entering the Australian property market a month. So
That's insane when you think about it, a month.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so Found It is three things. We help Australians realise the Australian property dream. How we do that is we have technology, proprietary technology that we use for sourcing to help find what our clients are looking for. We have a buyer's agent business that we're recruiting some of the best buyer's agents in this country into our model, and we actually handle every service for them, from content marketing, technology, training, compliance. And then our third vertical is research. And so my co-founder is out of investment banking world, 15 years experience in it. What we want to do is we want to cover property like investment bankers cover stocks. So think about this. If you go and you want to buy $1,000 in Domain shares, this is not financial advice to buy Domain shares, by the way, Avi, but
well, I'm clearly 2-3 weeks too late. But
yeah, that's right. Yeah. But you could go and read thousands of pages of reports and get a pretty good understanding of what that business is. Yet when you go and buy property in this country, in Victoria, you get a statement of information with 3 comparables. Why? Because the agent is there to maximise the sale price for the vendor. That's absolutely what they should be doing. But the buyers kind of bring a knife to a gunfight. So what we want to do is help buyers for when they actually buy shares. You can buy 1,000 shares, you can sell them the next day. But when you buy property, you're generally getting into 25 years of debt. And so we want to help people when they buy property to have investment grade research that sits behind them, so they're confident that they've got what they need to be able to transact, and provide them with someone who can negotiate on their behalf as well.
So going back to the 70% of people that don't actually buy, do you think that's the reason why they don't buy? Because they don't have the right research, they don't have the right confidence, someone's not helping them along?
I think it's actually a bit of a cocktail of a few things. It's lack of information and knowledge around the process and what to do, because people don't transact every day like us in real estate. They're transacting every 7 to 10 years. Process changes, DD changes, planning overlays change, lots of different things go into it. Second thing is around like affordability crisis. So often people get pre-approval, they go out into the wild, and then they quickly realise that they actually can't afford to buy in Bulimba. They need to be 4 suburbs over. But there's a process that comes with that of kind of conditioning yourself and learning what you actually can afford or can't afford as well that comes with it. There's a lot of reasons as to why, but we think research is probably one of the key things, which is like, people just don't know what to do. Yeah. You go and get a pre-approval and you're like, what do I do now?
So the idea is that buyers will engage with Found It directly.
They do, yeah.
Yep. And then where do the buyers agents come into this play?
So the buyers agents, we actually actively recruit them into our business. We're always recruiting and looking for great talent to bring into it. We're generally not looking for first-timers or people that are just entering the market. It's more about who are the people who have been doing this a long time that want to be a part of a premium brand and what will hopefully become a household name of Found It.
So the value proposition for buyers agents is that they get buyers ready to buy. You provide buyers ready to buy for them, as opposed to just being out there trying to find the client themselves.
Exactly.
So that's a great value proposition for them.
Yeah,
because that's what they struggle with most of the times, right? Finding the client.
Yeah, so I get the value prop for us is who are our key customers? Our customer is the buyer. Our customer is sell-side agents. We want sell-side agents to be able to help reduce days on market by giving someone who's on the other side is sophisticated, who's representing on behalf of a buyer, who can help them to put a deal together faster as well, so you can sell more property every year. Mortgage brokers, so that we can help partner with them so their clients are having more success in market. And obviously, as I said before, the buyers themselves as well.
So there's an end-to-end service for the buyer and the whole piece as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just about buying the property, you're taking care of them throughout the whole process.
Throughout the whole process, yeah. So and we do how we do that at scale is that through proprietary technology that we're building as well.
Great. So it sounds like your career has been focused on solving the problems that other people haven't seen yet.
Yeah, we try and pick trends ahead of when they're about to pop. but try and stay the basic principle of you got to solve a real problem. If you're not solving a real fundamental problem, it's very hard to extract money and value out of it as well.
So my final question to you is that you've done all these things. Obviously, you've scaled them, you've sold it, you've worked in one of the biggest PropTech companies in Australia. But what does success look like for you? Like, especially with Founded and what you're doing in the future?
Success has changed a bit over the time. I think there's a really good talk by Simon Sinek who does infinite and finite thinking. Like, finite thinking is you say to yourself, when I get to this outcome, I will be happy. And I think that's where we got to with RTA, me and my business partner at the time. Like, when we sell this business, we'll be really happy, we'll have money, et cetera, et cetera. We kind of got there. And you're like, yeah, the money's nice, but like, actually, it's not as fulfilling as you thought it was. And what I've moved to now is like building businesses. I love building businesses. I love solving problems for people, but I also really like developing people and talent within it. I think I get a lot of a kick out of seeing someone who comes into the business, who starts at employee number 3, who then ends up running a team of 40 people, and you see their career develop and their capability develop. I get a real kick out of that.
Well, Angus Ferguson, I think you're doing it with style and grace, and you really dominated every field you've chosen to dominate, and I'm sure this will be a huge success as well.
Thanks, Avi. It's too late now, we're unemployed, so we've got to go for it.
Best way to start, right? Thank you so much for being on Call Me Successful, and we wish you all the best for the future.
Thanks, Avi. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks, mate.